Welcome to the Stogie Geek Show, episode 129. This episode is sponsored by M. Bombay Cigars, representing the most admired cigar culture of Cuba. And by Mr. J's Havana Smoke Shop, located here in Rhode Island. They have an outstanding selection of premium handmade cigars. And by the Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island. It's a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo. And by AJ Fernandez Cigars, handcrafted in Nicaragua using the finest materials. Brands include the San Latano, Pinolero, and HA's recently released New World brand. Visit them on the web at ajfernandezcigars.com. And by Debonair Cigars. Visit stogiegeeks.com/debonair for a list of retailers who carry Debonair. Buy some today and get a little more Debonair. And by Ocean State Cigars. Try the J Grotto series, including the new J Grotto anniversary. Visit them on the web at oceanstatecigars.com for a full list of retailers near you. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Stogie Geek Show. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, joined on the lines via Skype by none other than Mr. Will Cooper.
Greetings, everybody.
Before we get started, Will, I want to remind everyone that if you watch the live stream on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we've got a very special contest that we do that if you watch and or listen live, you put yourself at a significant advantage to win this contest. We've given away a lot of Smoke Naked t-shirts this year and a lot of cigars. You can see the lovely Smoke Naked t-shirt there. So on every show, there is a first come, first serve, first in, first out, because we're still geeks. We use terms like that. First in, first out contest on every show. You win a Stogie Geeks t-shirt and a cigar on every show. And we open that at the end of the show. We'll read what the question is, and then the first person to answer via email wins a Stogie Geeks Smoke Naked t-shirt and a cigar of our choosing.
The question can happen any time during the show, so
that's right. It can be totally random, so you got to watch. Usually, now I have to say, our live listeners have won every single time, but there may be weeks where our live listeners might be kind of light that week or decide not to participate, or maybe all of our live listeners have won, and in which case, once you win, you have to wait 3 months until you can win again. So, you know, in the recorded video, which gets posted on Friday. You can watch that, maybe have a chance to win on Friday. That will carry over. If we still don't have a winner, it'll go into our recorded audio, which gets published on Monday. So that's a contest. We give something away in every show. So make sure you tune in Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Now that it's not football season, you have no excuse but to tune in to the Stogie Geek Show.
Absolutely.
I'd like to introduce our very special guest for this evening, Spencer Drake, who's the VP of Sales of Cubanacan. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Buenos dias.
Yes. So, Spencer, how did you get started in the cigar industry?
I was an avid cigar smoker, thanks to Skip Martin. Skip was my retailer down in Galveston, and turned me from a cigar a day, several cigars a week kind of guy to an addict, and got me into it, kind of cultivated me into cigars. We had similar palates, and he's kind of the guy that got me into it. I was in the mortgage business. I had a mortgage company in Houston, and when the crash happened, I just left the market prior to that, and it just decided I wanted to do something different. And so I started looking at opportunities to open a cigar shop in kind of the northwest area of Houston and the Houston suburbs. And to do that, I wanted to kind of have more knowledge about how different operations worked. So I did a tour around the country at different cigar shops and kind of came up with the plan I wanted. On the way back down, I smoked the San Latano Habano. And did a little research on it and saw that there was no representation really in Texas, and several other states had really good representation. So for shits and giggles, sent them a resume and started from there. I was the first in-house rep hired with them, and started with Texas, and then expanded to a total of, I think, at the max 9 states. And that's how I got into it.
Very cool. So, Spencer, with your title being VP of Sales, I want to give you the kind of Glengarry Glen Ross, the Wolf of Wall Street. Sell me this cigar, right?
What are you smoking?
I'm smoking the HR Robusto. Is that what you sent me, Will?
The Hermoso.
Hermoso,
Hermoso.
HR Habano Hermoso.
If
Which
you're
is-
smoking it, then I don't need to sell you anything.
That's right. Well, it was sent to me compliments of Will, and I'm assuming that was compliments of you, maybe, Spencer, or
No, I think Will did that on his own.
I think
I
no,
didn't send
yeah.
it to you unless Lawrence did.
No, you know what? There was a price tag on it. So Will, thank you, Will. Will actually bought these cigars.
Well, I'm gonna give the guys at Cubanacan. Nate McIntyre was through town, so there was some that were graced along my presence.
Okay. Good.
And I fell in love with this cigar so much that I bought quite a few of them. So, we do have to
We
thank the
appreciate it.
Cubanacan guys. Yeah. Yeah.
But to get back to the cigar, I mean, it's just one of those special cigars. The complexity of it, the way it changes and keeps you interested. It's just, I mean, you can look at the cigar, look at the wrapper leaf. It's just a special cigar. I mean, it's an Ecuadorian first generation Habano 2000 seed that we started in Ecuador 3 years ago. That came from, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. Sorry. Anyway, it's first generation Ecuadorian Habano 2000 that we've been working on a while, and the master blender Omar Gonzalez, who was the one who blended that cigar. I think that's one of the misconceptions in the marketplace, partially because we just haven't communicated it very well. I don't think Omar's the one that blended that cigar. Hirochi didn't blend it. What happened was Omar, when we started the process with Hirochi, which is pretty much about the time Omar came on board with us in 2012, Omar Gonzalez Alaman is really the magic behind everything that we're doing at Cubanacan. He is not only our master blender, but he handles everything on the Nicaraguan side of the operation, from farming to getting the cigars manufactured. All the pre-industry processes are done with him. And his background is, he was the GM of La Corona in Cuba. And the guy's got chops, man. And a lot of people on the state side don't know a lot about him. The guys in Nicaragua know who he is. They know his background. All the guys that had backgrounds in Cuba knew who Omar was. He was nominated for Hombre Habano when he was in Cuba, which is the highest honor you can have in the tobacco world. Just a special, special guy. And when he came on with us, he reached out to Hirochi with an idea and said, I think honoring your grandfather, your late grandfather at the time, and honoring your family's name is something that we can do in the American marketplace. And so, Hirochi was all for it. And the way the process went is every 7 to 10 days, once they started blending, or Omar started blending cigars, he'd send cigars to Hirochi, and Hirochi would give him feedback on them. And that process continued for a couple of years until 3.5 weeks prior to IPCPR of last year, when they finalized the blend. And so this cigar was one that was worked over and over and over, and the tobaccos involved in it. There was no shortcuts taken, and I think the cigar speaks for itself ultimately once you get it in somebody's hands. It's not one that we really have to sell all that much. To the retailer, we have to sell it sometimes because the name Hirochi Robina, it means a lot to some people, and some people just blank stare and go, "Is he Japanese?" And that's another thing about his name. His father would have been the heir apparent to the Robina throne, so to speak, but he had a skin disorder that didn't allow him to work in the tobacco fields. He was sensitive to the sun, so that's kind of how Hirochi became the heir apparent. But his father was still, like his grandfather, an ambassador for Cuba internationally. So he loved the culture in Japan when he was there, and when he got back, either Hirochi's mom was just, she had just gotten pregnant, or she was about to have Hirochi. I don't remember exactly what the details are, but his love of that culture, they decided to give him a Japanese name, so they started going through business cards and came across the name Hirochi, and that's what they picked. So.
That's cool. Will, do you have some more questions for
Yeah,
Spencer?
sure. So Spencer, the first question I have is I've seen lately the HR is now being called the Habano Maduro. So is this technically a Maduro?
That's what we call it. I really don't know. It's not that, it doesn't look like a Maduro to me, but what is, Maduro, I don't even know how to answer your question, man. To me, it's not a Maduro in terms of my definitions of Maduro, but Omar, he's Cuban, and I think his definition is just a little bit different than mine is. And Maduro means ripe, right? Ripened. Isn't that correct in terms of the
Yeah,
translation?
it's also dark. It's kind of a darkened, ripened. So when something gets ripe, it gets
Right.
darker, so to speak.
So to me, it's not, it's not as dark as what I think we see on the in domestic marketplace is what a typical Maduro is. But I think it's just the process that it entailed in terms of fermentation and how long it fermented. The fermentation that we used on that tobacco is just it's a cooler level of fermentation than a lot of other people use, which just means it takes a longer time to get it ripe. So it was a very time intensive process, but mainly because we utilized a cooler temperature than a lot of people do on the internal part of the plum.
Spencer, tell me a little bit about the Connecticut that you have in your portfolio. A lot of times, the Connecticut is a tougher sell to some of our audience members who, I don't know, they're into kind of a more bold flavor profile. They're into something a little heavier. They don't, necessarily latch on to Connecticut. So tell me about your Connecticut and kind of how you position that in the market.
Well, I think there's been a trend for the last few years, let's say, of the consumers getting a little bit more interested in Connecticut, and because the Connecticut's coming out of Nicaragua and that are utilizing Nicaraguan filler are different than the Connecticut's that most people are accustomed to and that have kind of were the industry standard for so long. And Dominican Connecticut's are just different than Nicaraguan Connecticut's. When you utilize that much Nicaraguan filler in a cigar, it's going to have some strength to it. And you don't want to overpower the creaminess of that Connecticut leaf with the filler, but at the same time, something to give it a little bit of balls, And so for the guys that are into bolder smokes, typically, it's still not going to be a late night smoke for them or say a second or third cigar of the day sort of thing. More often than not, it's going to be a first cigar of the day, but it's a bolder Connecticut, man. It's a really really damn good Connecticut we do in the Cubanacan line. So we've also got a Habano Claro that we do in the Soneros line that I think is an amazing cigar that, because of the color of that Habano Claro, your average everyday consumer is going to look at that cigar and think it's a lighter cigar, and in fact, it's right at a medium level. So, there's a lot of cigars out there like that now, and I think maybe we're somewhat our lenses are a little bit clouded or shaped according to our environments, and being in this industry and being around mostly cigar guys, I think the people in the industry, whether it's the consumers that are so avidly involved in it, or the retailer, or the industry guys on the manufacturing side, we now understand that there's a lot of Connecticut's out there that are different than they were 5-10 years ago.
Cool. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, so Spencer, I was just going to say, going to the Cubanacan line, actually, let's take a step back. With Cubanacan, you guys are pretty unique I don't want to say unique for a boutique company, but you don't find a lot of boutique companies that are as vertically integrated as you guys are. For our audience who may not be familiar with that, why don't you talk a little about that?
Um, I think there are other companies that are the boutique word and the craft word. I think Skip's copyrighted that, so I might get sued.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
those words are, I don't know. We're definitely boutique, and at least my definition of what boutique is.
Well,
But
we could say small company. We could say small
there
company.
you go.
Yeah,
And
I've
we're
actually
not.
been told
I
by
mean,
someone not to say boutique either. So yeah, small company I think
no,
is better.
it's just it's one of those words that's thrown around so much to try to benefit different manufacturers who want to kind of capture the interest of the consumer that's looking for that kind of boutique cigar, so to speak. So, for us, what we are is we're a manufacturer of cigars that take extraordinary pride in what we do as a company. Don't take any shortcuts whatsoever, and the most important thing to us is putting the best cigar we can put out there, and we're not we're not a marketing company that's just trying to penetrate a market, and we're really just a bunch of cigar nerds. I mean, the whole group is. All the families involved in this are people that really love tobacco, and we're just kind of carving our little niche in the market of what it is we do, and trying to grow as a company and surround ourselves with the best possible people, good people. I mean, we got a really good group. But to get back to your question, I think the difference between us and a lot of other quote unquote new brands to the industry, because we're not really new. We just have had limited distribution. We've kind of concentrated more on the factory level stuff and the Nicaraguan side of things, getting all the pieces in place to be able to take the country by storm, really. And nobody, I don't know of anybody that's done it the way we've done it in that regard. So to go back kind of to the beginning, and I'm kind of long-winded, but we got an hour, so shit, y'all might not get a chance to talk.
It's fine. Keep going, Spencer. You're awesome.
I said don't talk.
Sorry.
2006, the Mederos family started growing tobacco in Nicaragua. That's how it all started. And then they put out a cigar in 2009, started manufacturing in 2008, and that was the Mederos line. And then, they tried to penetrate the market, and they kind of got a little bit ahead of themselves, I think, in terms of advertising heavily, and the market really wasn't great at that time. So they scaled back and really concentrated on the Nicaraguan side of things, grew that operation some, and then by the grace of God, Omar, who was operating out of Costa Rica at the time, approached the Mederos family about getting distribution in the United States. His operation was mainly distributing to the international channels that he had gotten when he was in Cuba. Just all the international contacts he had there, he leveraged while he was in Costa Rica to get the stuff out internationally. And when he came to Robert, and Robert knew who he was, Robert said, I'm not going to distribute for you. You need to come run my operation. So Robert saw the opportunity and seized it to bring in Omar to run the operation down in Nicaragua, and that happened in 2012. So what happened pretty much between 2012 and now is all of the pre-industry processes, all the farming, the manufacturing, how the rollers are taught, how they're trained, has all been under Omar's guidance, and they really cultivated the operation down there despite having limited distribution in the States. And one of the benefits of that is just extraordinarily rare in this business is they stockpiled cigars. So when I got the opportunity to interview with these guys, as I was transitioning out of AJ, when I'm sitting down with Robert Mederos, and Lawrence is really the one that brought me in to meet with Robert. The thing that was astounding outside of the cigars, I mean, I smoked the Cubanacan Maduro Lonsdale. That was the first cigar Lawrence ever gave me from Cubanacan, and an inch in, I was already going, holy shit, this is really good. You could taste the depth on the tobacco and the fermentation. It was just there was a depth to it that I really, really enjoyed and noticed a certain level of quality early on with, and got me excited because I'm in this business to sell really good cigars. I'm not a very good sales guy. I'm a cigar nerd, man, and if I don't have passion for it, I can't sell it. So that was the first thing that got me interested, and then some things transpired, and I got the opportunity to sit with Robert and talk to him. And when I did, and I found out they had been stockpiling cigars for the last couple of years, and everything that I'd be selling to the market, most everything, we introduced a couple of new sizes in 2014. That Lonsdale's one of them, and then the Corona Gorda and both of the Soneros lines. But outside of that, every other cigar had been sitting for over a year. So I was going to be able to sell cigars at an amazing price point. This is all prior to the HR piece, by the way. At an amazing price point that had been aging for a year, at least a year. So that was a pretty exciting thing for me. And no matter how good a job I do, we're going to have a really hard time running through all that inventory in the next 12 to 18 months. It's just we have built a stockpile of cigars down there. And so that's one of the things I think that sets us apart from a lot of the quote unquote new brands to the industry. And when I say new brands, we're new to a lot of markets in the country. And so when I walked in the door, when I first took the job and I went back home to Texas, I told them I'd introduce the line to Texas and then I'd have to find somebody to replace myself. And so when I went down there and started introducing the line, nobody had heard of it hardly. I mean, it was a rarity if they'd heard of it. And the response was just extraordinary. And I have a lot of good friends down there that are retailers, and I wanted this to be something special, and I felt like it was, but I started kind of questioning myself. Is this really as good as I think it is? Or is it just that I want it to be good? And with my friends that are retailers, they all really liked it and brought it in, wide and deep. And, I still question myself. Is this because they're my friends? And I started having doubts, and then all of a sudden, reorder, 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 and that was really the proof and what kind of legs the line had. And that's what's brought us to today. And that and really concentrating on getting the right people in place. And we've been just absolutely blessed to put Nate McIntyre in the Southeast and Brandon Holsworth in the Texas kind of central territory all the way up north. And he's handling some other stuff for us. And Jeff Groover down in Florida, and got some other guys on board that are doing a good job for us. So we're still expanding, still getting more boots on the ground. We're not everywhere yet. We will be shortly. But,
Spencer, Texas is a big state, first of all, and a big state for cigars as well. Is it just because of the size of the state? Is it the culture of the state? Like, what is it that breeds some of these like really epic cigar shops in Texas?
Right now, I think it's a couple of things. There's a certain culture in Texas that, in some of the cities, you've seen more smoking ordinances come into place and things of that nature. In Houston and Dallas and Austin, San Antonio, all of us have smoking bans. Fortunately, the legislation is such that at least it's not affecting the brick and mortar stores. We still are allowed to have cigar lounges and smoking in the lounges and all that. But it's really the economy, I think, and the culture. The economy's booming down there. I mean, Forbes just rated Houston the #1 city in the country. Oil prices were really good for a while. I think that helped.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a number of other factors. Cost of living is really low there, so I think people have more disposable income.
Yep.
And we've just got some really good retailers, But there's great shops everywhere, man. I travel the country, and there's plenty of great shops. But Texas has definitely got some monsters down there.
Spencer, describe to me the Mederos line. You've got a Connecticut Habano and Oscuro in the Mederos line. Where does that come from? And describe that line for me.
I can't describe it for you. I really can't. Since I've been on board, we haven't distributed that line at all, really. What happened was we, with the tobacco that we were aging for the HR and processing for the HR, we took the opportunity to utilize some of the tobacco that we didn't use for the HR for that final blend. Because like I said, Omar's was messing with that blend for so long that we were aging a bunch of tobacco that we didn't necessarily utilize for that blend. So we've retooled the Mederos line and are going to relaunch it in the next 30 days or so.
Awesome.
So I haven't smoked the new blend with any age on it, but I can tell you right now, I've smoked some of the younger stuff, and we're really, really excited about what we're going to be able to do with that line. Really, really excited. It's going to be a huge hit in the marketplace. But yeah, we've kept the same line, so to speak, in terms of Oscuro, Habano, and Connecticut, but the blends are different.
Very cool.
That
They're
answered
similar, but go ahead.
No, that answered a question because I had that Madero cigar. This has to be about 4 or 5 years ago, and a couple guys came back from the trade show with it, and it was fantastic. And then you couldn't find it, so you kind of answered my question on that one.
Yep. That's what we're doing with that one. But right now, what we have in the marketplace is the Cubanacan line, which is in Connecticut, Habano, and Maduro. And then we've got the Soneros line, which is in Habano, Claro, and Maduro. And then the HR. And those are the three that we have out right now. And then we got something new and fancy and special coming out for the trade show that I wish I could talk to you about, but I can't.
What is that?
You know where to find us. You know where to find us.
Oh yeah. No. We've got something special to honor the Robina family's 170th anniversary of growing tobacco in Cuba. They started in 1845, so we're doing an Ellie of sorts. That
in the Robanas family, the Cuban cigar Vegas Robana, that's the same family, right? Is that the brand that has remained in Cuba?
So the Vegas Robina is a cigar that was made by the Cubans to honor the Robina family.
Oh, okay.
That's it. It was made to honor Don Alejandro. It's not manufactured by Hirochi. It's not really something that's under the watch of the Robinas.
I got you.
It's something that Habanos SA has, and they manufacture it. And I don't even know what fabrica they're using, but it's not under the eye of the Robinas. It's just a name to honor them. It's kind of similar to what we're doing, to be quite honest with you. What we're doing is we're creating a cigar to honor the Robinas, but it's not under Hirochi's control or over his, under his eye. It's something that we obviously wanted his approval for, and wanted him to be involved in it, and so that's kind of our relationship with him, and he's been an ambassador for the line, traveling throughout the country, and been an ambassador for our company. I mean, he's a good friend of the family, and just a neat guy, man. I mean, I know Will got the opportunity to interview him. That was, I think, one of the very few interviews. I think William got the first interview with him at IPCPR.
I was very privileged for that. Thank you. Yes.
Just to come back to this,
it wasn't me. I told him not to let you interview him.
Come back to this HR Robusto. This cigar is very, very good, and I did myself a disservice by this not being one of my first cigars of the day, and drinking some. I was actually drinking a cocktail that had some pretty strong flavors. I don't recommend that to our listeners that when you're going to try this cigar. I recommend you try this on a fresh palate with something clean like a seltzer, maybe a coffee, if that's normally what you pair cigars with. The flavors in the cigar are very subtle, but they're very, very good. I'm very much enjoying the cigar, Spencer, and it's one of those ones that you have to do it justice by paying attention to the flavors and making sure that you're not destroying your palate with some kind of beverage or food that has a tendency to do that. So.
Spence, he's just saying to me, basically, I need to send him some more. So,
and that is essentially what I'm angling at. Was that I like the cigar so much that I want Will to send me some more. Yes.
Yeah, we'll take care of that. I believe it. I believe the cigar a lot. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, as obviously Will and the guys are. So, it's it's a cigar that I had the opportunity to smoke it once right before the trade show. A couple of weeks before the trade show when it was really young, and was pretty excited about it. It was one of those things where I'd never been in a position where I had to sell a $20-ish cigar. So when Robert and I were talking pricing strategy and everything, and he put that in front of me, and we discussed it and came to the conclusion that's what we were going to price it at, and I hadn't smoked the thing yet. I was a little concerned. I was like, so we're a company that a large portion of the country's never heard of before, Cubanacan, and we're gonna launch a $20 stick of a guy that maybe they've heard of, maybe they haven't. The nerds of the world know who Hirochi Robina is, and the guys that have tried to source Cuban cigars here domestically, they know who Hirochi is, but a large portion of our potential consumer base, they don't know who he is. So you don't get a whole lot of leverage off of the name. You don't get a whole lot of leverage off of us as a company. So the cigars really got to be damn good in order to penetrate the market. So
yeah, I will say that,
concern.
if you're a nerd and you smoke the Vegas Robania,
Yeah.
That's a very good cigar. I mean, I'm not trying to compare.
Absolutely.
I know that it's completely mutually exclusive for what you guys are doing.
Sure.
But you recognize that name, and it's in a positive light. That cigar scores really well. I'm a big fan of that cigar. So when you can associate Cubanacan with that name, even though it's a very, very much faint dotted line, right? I think that that helps your image, but it's still that's a small percentage of the market. So
Yeah, it's not gonna support the brand. I mean, on its own, the cigar has to stand on its own. So when I initially smoked it, while it was really young, I was really excited about the cigar and about what Omar had done with it. But it was young, really young. So you just don't know how something's going to develop once it has a little bit of time to sit. And then the ones we had at the trade show, mind you, no boxes, no packaging, naked cigars. And it was a pretty daunting task, but smoking the cigar at the trade show with just an additional like 2 weeks of age on it from the first one I had smoked, it had already gotten better.
that's good.
And
And
it's
that's a
still
tough sell, dude. I
was a
mean,
little young.
your palate's tired at the show. And you smoke that many cigars, your palate's tired. And this is not a cigar to smoke on a tired palate. I mean, there's this wonderful sweetness that hits the middle of my palate, and it's very prominent. But I think if your palate's tired, you're not going to pick out those subtleties that this cigar is bringing. And a lot of times people don't appreciate those subtleties in a cigar unless they're in a certain environment. But those are some of the best cigars that you'll ever smoke, is ones that can present those subtle flavors that you have to pay attention to. And I think that speaks to kind of the culture of cigars too. A cigar should make you kind of slow down, relax, not get caught up in the insanity of the world today, the insanity of your schedule. And that's why I appreciate cigars that offer that kind of subtle flavors, complexity, balance that you really have to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think there's different cigars for different times, and there's the cigar that you like to smoke while you're mowing the yard and drinking a Miller Lite.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Not this
there's
one.
cigars that
Don't do that.
You're right. There's cigars you like on the golf course, and then there's cigars that you want to sit down and have something that pairs well, a good dark beer or a cup of coffee or whatever it is. And that you can sit down and, like you said, kind of just relax and really take it all in and notice the subtleties and kind of study it and and just feel the texture of the smoke. And it's just it's a really neat cigar, man, and it's gotten better and better. That's the great thing about it. We were lucky enough, and luck's probably not the right term, but we were blessed enough to have really good support at the trade show, despite having me pulling out my iPhone to show people, renderings of what the band's going to look like and kind of explaining our vision for how the packaging was going to work. And and having programs in place to limit that cigar to some extent in the marketplace. We wanted to make sure that the rest of the lines were going to be supported, and so we had programs in place to kind of limit it, because we don't want everybody to have this cigar. This isn't a cigar for every retailer. It's a cigar for the right retailers that understand the value of it, and who to sell it to. You know, a guy comes in the shop and he always buys $7 cigars from you. You know, that's not the customer that we're targeting. It's the guy that has a little bit more money in his pocket, and understands the value of that cigar and how special it is. Because I there's nothing else like it in the marketplace. I'm not going to say it's better than everything else, because you know, there's a lot of really good cigars in the marketplace, but it's an extraordinary cigar, and it's set apart by being a different cigar than anything else I've ever smoked. I've never smoked anything like it.
I think it's a great cigar for our Stogie Geeks kind of audience to try.
Yeah, right.
For sure. Yeah.
The guys that are into
resonate
it,
in our
for sure.
audience. Yeah. Will, you got more questions for Spencer?
Yeah, so Spencer, you know, the amazing thing about this cigar is, you know, you talked about the price, but this cigar has absolutely moved. Has it been just getting the cigar into people's hands? Has it been word of mouth? Has it been Hirochi hitting the road, or a combination of those things? Because I tell you what, this cigar, you know, I see people at my local shop, happens to be one of the HR retailers, and you know, these customers are not known to make cigar purchases where boxes where they're $20, and I see the boxes flying off the shelf here. What do you think is it just, you think the cigar is just selling itself, like you said?
I think it's me, you know. I think it's
Yeah, there
probably
you go.
me, you know. No, it's really the cigar, and it's the most important piece to us. And I think this is just manufacturers in general, and I think some don't necessarily realize it, but they should. It's that the retailers are really the most important piece to all of this for us. They're an extension of our sales force, really. And so what we've done, or attempted to do, is educate them on the cigar, on our company, on what makes us different and what makes us, you know, what I feel is special. You know, like was mentioned earlier, the vertical integration. When you walk into a store and you're a new brand, it's difficult to penetrate, especially some of the larger stores. And not necessarily, large isn't necessarily good either, you know, for a young brand. I mean, there's certain humidors you can get a young brand in there, and it can wither up and die, because you walk into the humidor and nobody helps you. Nobody, you know, directs you to things. Nobody knows what you smoke. Nobody, you know, can know that you smoke this. So, hey, you really need to try this. Here's something new we have. So for us, educating the retailers and really telling them the story of the company and who we are, and that we're different than most of the new brands that are going to be introduced to them. And I think that becomes pretty obvious once we start telling that story. So it's been a combination of a lot of things. I mean, obviously the cigar has to be fantastic. That's a given. And then the retailer, you know, having some understanding of what the cigar is, and appreciating it for what it is, and pushing their people that direction, saying, hey, give this thing a try. And you know, there's not a lot of cigars out there that are in that price range. It's a pretty limited market. So for us, while there's some fantastic cigars in that price point, it is a smaller market or, you know, in terms of competition, but it's also a smaller market in terms of consumers. So we really didn't know going into it. We were really excited after the trade show about how well received everything was, especially considering the fact that we didn't have anything packaged and, you know, really presentable to the retailer in terms of how it was going to be merchandised. And then having a cigar that was 3.5 weeks old. So to have that kind of success got us pretty excited about what the potential was. And then when we dropped it on December 3rd and got it out there and started seeing, you know, the turnover we were having with it, and how fast we were getting reorders, it was amazing, man. And it continues to be amazing, and we're continuing to grow it. And we're very appreciative and mindful of the retailers that have taken a chance on us. So We have significant production of this cigar. I don't want to act like we don't, but at the same time, with the way we're turning this thing over, we're trying to make sure that the people that brought us to where we're at, meaning the retailers and their consumers, are going to be able to get this cigar moving forward without much of a problem. We're going to start limiting accounts coming in the near future, probably towards the end of this quarter, and we're still penetrating some other territories that we didn't have representation in from December until now, or from the trade show till now. So we're gonna try to keep those territories open enough to where we can supply some of the key retailers there that don't have the cigar currently. And there's a lot of retailers that have it in places that we don't have boots on the ground, just because they keep hearing about it, have customers coming in asking for it. So, guys like you do a valuable service for us, because, you got people all over the country watching the show. So it's one of those things where we want to make sure that we're penetrating all the markets and in the right accounts. But for those people that have already had it, we want to make sure we can continue to supply them. So that's really the reason that we're trying to evaluate all the numbers and make sure that we can continue to supply everybody and keep everybody happy that took a chance on us. And it's a pretty difficult undertaking, to try to project all that stuff when you haven't penetrated certain markets a whole lot. But we'd rather be safe than sorry. And so that's kind of my pitch to all the retailers that are listening to this that haven't taken the cigar on yet. Get in now, because we are going to start cutting it off pretty soon.
It's smart. It's a smart move, Spencer, because you don't want to get to a point where you can't meet the production and then the quality suffers. So I applaud you for that.
The quality will never suffer. Let me start with that. The quality will never suffer. Even if we got to the point that we miscalculate our projections, and unfortunately we're not able to supply retailers the way we want to, which I don't think will be the case, because again, we're looking at that very, very closely. But we'll never sacrifice quality for the sake of getting cigars into the marketplace. A cigar like this, and really any of our cigars, whether they're priced at $5 or they're priced at $21.99, we can't afford to make that kind of mistake. And ultimately, it's just not something Omar would ever do. But we can't afford to make that mistake as a brand. You build customer loyalty by continuing to produce really good cigars that are consistent, that draw well, that have. That's just how you build a brand. We're not in this for the short run. We're in this to be making great cigars for many years to come. And in order to build that kind of reputation, it's like Padron. You don't build that reputation overnight. It takes a long time to do it. And if you have a few hitches along the way, it's hard to get back up to that kind of level. So that's kind of what we strive to do, is just have a certain amount of recognition of what it is we do in the market.
When I was at IPCPR and I had that opportunity to sit down with you folks, and Hirochi he's an amazing guy, as I'm sure you know. But the other person that really, and Omar, of course, too, I had a chance to talk to, but Robert Mederos was a guy. He's a guy I think he's quiet in the background, but when you sit down and talk to Robert, okay, I don't know if he's quiet. It seems like he's more in the background. But this guy's got vision and passion that blew me away when I sat and talked to him. Maybe
he's
don't know Robert.
He's probably blushing right now. He prefers to be the smooth, good-looking Cuban guy in the corner, and he's an extraordinarily smart guy. He's he's brilliant, man. He's a really, really smart guy. And one of the best things about Robert is he knows what he doesn't know, and that's a really valuable thing. And I don't want to talk about any other manufacturers out there, but in this industry, one of the things that drew me to this company, outside of obviously the tobacco and the cigars and and Lawrence being a part of it. Lawrence is just one of the best people I know in the industry.
guy.
Just yeah, he's one of a kind, man. He's a good friend, one of my best friends, and but Robert's got business background that a lot of other people in this industry don't have. So it's really it's a rare thing to have one of these Cubans that its family was involved in tobacco in Cuba to come into the States and to be successful in a number of other business ventures, to take this on out of passion and something that he really wanted to do and focus all of his time on it. And one of the things they struggled with was stateside distribution and getting the cigars out there to everybody. And so he leans a lot on Lawrence and I and Brandon and Nate and Jeff and all the guys we've got in place to tell him how it works out here and on the road and within the retail spaces. And you give them ideas about different ways to package to be more retailer friendly. You give them ideas on how to price things to be more retailer friendly. And he's just a sponge. He takes it all in. He listens. He thinks about it, and he's really easy to deal with in that regard. He's a great guy to work with, man. Really good guy to work with. I couldn't be more blessed to be in the position I'm in and have the opportunity to work with guys like him and Omar and have the opportunity to kind of tour the country with somebody like Hirochi and to learn from him as much as I can. I mean, I'm just really blessed to be surrounded by the people that I was surrounded with when I came in, and then I feel like I've brought in some really talented people that are just good people, company people. They don't do things that benefit themselves at the expense of the company. They do things that benefit the company at the expense of themselves sometimes. I mean, Nate and Brandon. Nate's made just crazy amounts of sacrifices during some difficult times in his life to benefit the company. We had to kick his ass off the road because he's a company man, and I think everybody's really passionate about what we're doing, and that's what we want. You've got to be able to have a mantra and have a message that kind of permeates the whole core of the company and all the way out to all the people that are out there in the field for us. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. We can always get better, but we've done a pretty good job of getting everybody to understand who it is we are, what it is we're trying to do, and to deliver that message out in the marketplace. And it's been extraordinary, man.
Yep.
But to get back to Robert, let's stop talking about Robert because Robert doesn't want us talking about Robert.
Okay.
So, Will, do you have any closing questions for Spencer?
I think I covered everything.
Okay. Spencer, we have 5 questions for you. So, are you ready to play 5 questions with the Stogie Geeks?
No.
Okay, good. 3 words to describe yourself.
Oh, 3 words to describe myself. I think stupid question.
That's 2.
I'm confident, loyal, and stupid.
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Ooh. God, I really like Basic Instinct, so Ice Pick's pretty cool.
If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Oh. I used to say living the dream all the time, and then everybody else started saying it. I don't know if I necessarily originated, but that's probably good, man. That's what I'm doing. I'm living the dream. This industry is such a blast, man. I enjoy everything, not necessarily everything about it, but a lot of things about this industry. And, I followed my passion to get into this, and I just, to anybody out there that loves this, this thing as much as I do, that's not necessarily involved on this side of it, cut what it is you're doing and go for your dream. Because this was a shot in the dark for me, kind of, and it's turned out to be something that I'm just blessed to be a part of. part of.
In the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
I don't know. I'll have to call Skip and see how we did it last time. But
Ask Brandon Cornelius.
I'll say first.
But choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Oh, man. I really like Jerry Stiller. He's a pretty good dude. Jerry Stiller and Tig Notaro.
Excellent. Spencer, thank you very much for appearing on the Stogie Geek Show.
You bet, guys.
Thanks,
Wonderful
Spence.
having you. With that, we're going to take a short break, come back, and talk about our Stogies of the Week. So stay tuned. Don't go
Hey,
anywhere.
Spencer, can you stay on a minute?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.